Do you ever feel overwhelmed by everything that you have to do? Your task list just keeps getting longer, longer, and longer, and those deadlines just seem to get shorter and shorter and shorter. It's so easy to end up in a position where you feel like you're just jumping from task to task to task. You never get a second to just take a breath and ask yourself if you're even doing the right things. It's just so hard to get that feeling of actually being in control. That all changes today because we're going to dive into the art of weekly planning. Our goal for today is to leave you with a clear understanding of how you sit down to do a weekly plan where you review your performance from the past week, but also set very strong intentions for the week ahead. All right, with all that said, let's jump in and go straight into the 9 steps that you need to take to get back on your game. This step is crucial and don't you dare downplay it. Humans just suck at multitasking. I know. Some of you there straight away are going to say, oh, well, Shane, I'm actually quite good at multitasking. You're not. You're not. What you might actually be good at is what's known as context switching. And it's where our brains are able to switch from one task to another one really, really quickly. And that might feel like multitasking, but it's really not. Because every time you jump from one thought to another, you're losing focus. Focus that breaks your concentration and stops you coming up with new ideas that you've never thought of before and maybe different paths to get the goals that you've been trying to achieve. It derails your thoughts and limits the actions that you can actually come up with. So before you do anything, you want to remove the risk of external distractions coming in. Get your headphones, put them on, and listen to some music that's not going to take you away from what you're doing. The second step is to clear off all of the things that have built up over the last 7 days. I'll go through my wallet and clear out any receipts I have. I'll file any notes away in either an electronic storage system or in a filing cabinet. And what I'll do is I'll just get everything that's off on my desk off and filed away where it needs to go. And this means then that if I do this every week, the longest that any one thing will be on my desk waiting to have something done to it will be 7 days. And that leaves me feeling so in control and never being in this position where something has just been hanging and lingering on for weeks, months, or maybe even longer. Once I've got my physical world all decluttered and organized, I do the exact same thing for my digital world. Our downloads folders can quickly get caught up with things that we've downloaded across the week. I also have a temporary folder where I save some work in progress files. I've got notes on my phone, things saved on Reddit, Instagram posts saved for later reference. All of this stuff can build up so quickly if we don't have a method of making sure that we capture that information and put it somewhere that's easily referenceable and accessible. And so just like I did with all those bits of paper and post-it notes on my desk, I'll go through all my digital inboxes and make sure that all those things too are organized and put away to where they need to go for easy reference in the future. So now, here we are. We've decluttered our physical world and we've decluttered our electronic world. You might be thinking that's all there is left to declutter, right? Not actually the case. Because sometimes there's things that we have to do that don't even make it that far. There's still thoughts that are floating around in our head and we're just like, oh, I need to remember that. I need to do this. Definitely not conducive to feeling in control. So step 4 is capturing all those bits of information and tasks and things that you have to do and taking them from your head and getting them to where they need to go. Into somewhere where it's a little bit safer, where you can rest assured that if you forget it, it's still not going to get forgotten about. All right, so now we're in a really good spot. Everything you need to worry about is now right in front of you. And all you need to do is put it somewhere. For some of your notes and things that are just for reference, they'll just go into a filing system that might be on your computer or in your drawer. But the vast majority of things that you're going to be left sitting in front of you are going to be actions or tasks or things that you need to do. And this is where having a really strong task management app comes into play. Personally, I've been using an app called Todoist for about 7 years now, and I really love it. I've tried and I've swapped and I've changed to over the years to see if there's any that work better, and I keep coming back to it. I can't recommend it enough. But it doesn't matter. It might be just a reminders app on your phone, or it could be just a post-it note. It doesn't matter. So long as you have something that's really robust, that can't fall down, and isn't going to get forgotten about and left behind, it doesn't matter. Whatever task management system that you use, now all you need to do is to take those notes that you've taken and gathered up from all the parts of your life and get it in there. Don't worry about getting dates or times or durations just yet. Just get them in there so that now you know that all the things that you need to worry about are captured in this one system. The last thing we do before we start scheduling all this stuff is to have a look at our previous week and see if there's anything that's going to hang over us that we need to pick up and bring forward. Life happens, and sometimes things just fall behind. That might be because we dropped the ball and didn't do anything about them, or it could be just that something just took longer than we expected it to. That's fine. And the part of the benefit of actually going through a weekly review is having a system that allows you to deal with that. It's not about getting it right and perfect the first time. It's about having a way to iterate and come up with a new plan as your situation changes. So before we take all this information that we've gathered as part of your digital, your physical, and your mental review, the last thing we need to account for is anything that's coming from your current week into your next week to make sure that we don't overschedule yourself. Okay, hold on. So I feel like it's probably worthwhile just having a quick review of where we've come so far. The first thing we did was get ourselves set up in a distraction-free area. Then we went through and cleared up our physical space, moving quickly into our digital space, and then getting anything that's in our head onto paper in front of us. This leaves us with a list of things that we need to do and need to start accounting for in the weeks and months ahead. Then, just before you actually go in and actually do that exercise, you've also had a look at your previous week to see if there's anything that's going to carry over, anything that's not quite been finished that you need to also make sure you account for. And so now you've got everything you need to worry about in front of you, and you just need to time block and see where it's going to fit. Time blocking is a term I've said a couple of times throughout this video so far. And just to make sure that we're on the same page, all it means is that you're going to take a task and assign a date of when you're going to start and a duration of how long it's going to take. That might be like myself, where I time blocked some time this morning to sit down and record these videos. That started at 6 a.m. and I have 2 hours blocked out for it. You're going to do the exact same thing. Take your list of things and pick a time that you're going to start them and how long you're going to spend doing them. As you're going through this process, be realistic. The goal isn't to get everything and just shove it into the next week, but to more so set up a realistic plan that when you're sitting in this seat again in 7 days' time, you know that you've moved the needle forward and weren't just chasing your tail. Oftentimes, this will mean that all the things that you're trying to squeeze in just won't fit, and that's okay. Over time, you'll get better at picking the things that you need to prioritize and actually make sure you do next week and kicking the other things down the road a little bit. You're not going to get that right first time, and it's going to be uncomfortable doing that in the first few goes, but that's okay. Just know that as you go through this process over the next few weeks and months and maybe even years, that skill will be something that you develop, and ultimately over time you will get better at picking the things that you should focus on and pushing out the things that you shouldn't. But the big thing is that by going through this process and actually picking a date, be that even months in the future, as to when you're going to do these other things, you can leave the worry about whether they're going to get done behind. They're captured, they're in your system, and when the time is right, you will eventually get a reminder to say, hey, you should probably start thinking about this again. Leaving you feeling that you're in control and have absolutely everything accounted for. And for most people, this is new. They've never had that before. So already we're in a significantly more strong space of being in control and knowing what direction we're going in our own lives. If you want to take this process and actually just bump it onto steroids, what you could also do is step 8, which is to pick your top 3 goals for the week. Personally, I do this across my health, wealth, and home fronts, where I will have one goal for each of those areas that by the next 7 days, so long as I've got those 3 things done, the week is a success. Anything over and above that is great, and I'll take it every single day of the week. But my main focus to make sure that I'm constantly moving forward week after week after week is that I set these top 3 goals and I just focus on getting them done first. All improvements that happen in life is just building on compound interest. You don't need to get 10% better every week, but just by striving to be 1% better and 1% better and 1% better, It might not look like much today compared to yesterday, compared to last week. When you compare today to last month, last year, and last decade, well, then that's when things start changing super, super significantly. The last step is step 9, which is scheduling actions for those top 3 goals. While we've already gone through and captured all these to-do lists and items and notes that we had all over the place, and that ultimately led to us creating some actions, what we want to do now is really pause, think, and reflect that we've got our big 3 goals for the week. Have you accurately captured the actions that you need to take every single day to make those a reality? What you don't want to do is end up in a position where you are now 1 or 2 days away from your next review and you've not done anything with them yet. And that can happen so easily, and it's something that impacted me significantly in the early days of my review. I would be in this position when I was finished this week of feeling in control. I've got everything out in front of me. That's great. I'll remember to do that. And 10 minutes later, I've moved on to something else and I've just completely forgot what I said I would do. And it's not until a few days later where I'm like, oh God, my review is coming up and I've still not started that. Oh, that I started getting caught out. So now that you actually sit down and picked your top 3 goals for the week, make sure that you actually start scheduling actions in for today or as soon as possible where you actually start chipping away at them. But just make sure that for those top 3 goals that you've picked for that week, you have triggers and actions that are going to take place captured to make them happen in your task management system. If you found this video helpful and you want to dive a little bit deeper, it's probably worthwhile you looking at my Living on Purpose course. Right now, I've got a massive sale going on where you can save €250 and get that, along with a load of other things, just for €50. And within all that, that includes a direct one-to-one coaching call with myself. So if that's something that you're interested in, I'll leave a link down in the description below. But that's this week's video, folks. Hopefully you found it useful. If you follow these 9 steps, your weekly review process will absolutely just leave you feeling so in control. And I'm absolutely buzzing for that. So if you give this shot a go, make sure you leave a comment down below and let me know what you think. And if there's anything that I can do to help, you can always just reach out and ask any questions. Door is always open. With that said, folks, hope you have a great day and I will talk to you soon. Peace.